Hi there, my name's Hazel Fraser and I am one of the owners and directors of the Training Folk in Elgin. The Training Folk has been running for just over a year and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a wee while. I started off my career after I left university. Um, I come from this area. I went to Speyside High School in Aberlour. I then went off to university at Dundee and studied civil engineering. Um, my first job was as a site engineer down on a site in Ayr, and that was quite an experience. So much so that it kind of put me off civil engineering, and I quit the job and came back up to the area and started looking for something else. I was then lucky enough to get a job with what was then Thistle Aggregates, um, and I started as a supervisor, and that was supervising the guys who do the road surfacing. So I stayed with that company and worked my way up the ladder a wee bit. I became a civils manager, and then I became an area manager, and then I became a commercial manager. So Thistle Aggregates had various name changes over the years. So it's now known as Breedon. You've maybe seen Breedon about. They own some of the quarries. You've probably seen their trucks driving about the town. So overall, I worked for them for just over 20 years. Really enjoyed it. Got a lot out of it, a lot of experience. Um, and as I say, I was kind of worked my way up through the ranks. Um, but it came to the point where I decided I needed a little bit of a change. And my business partner, Laura, she was kind of in a funny position. She was getting made redundant from her job. So we both sort of put our heads together and decided to just start the Training Folk. And the idea behind that was to provide local people with local training. In our past workplaces, we knew that training was sometimes a little bit difficult to access, and often if we were going on training courses, we'd have to go further afield to do that. Even to Aberdeen and Inverness, it's not really the handiest. So we decided that we would try and get training done, in the Murray area, where people wanted it and when they wanted it. So that's where we are. Obviously, the pandemic has put a bit of a stop on face to face training. However, we have been doing some other bits and pieces online. So I suppose this is where some of the sort of skills come into it. Creativity. It's about sort of thinking out the box. Um, so as I say, because the training wasn't going to be happening face to face, I thought, well, we need to do something slightly different. So we've built our own online platform so that we can deliver online courses. I've been working with my SVQ students. I've been doing that by video links, video calls. So that's worked quite well. Creativity as well, I think. It's just coming up with new ideas. I'm always kind of thinking about things in the office, what we can do, how we can deliver a course a little bit differently than anybody else. A lot of the subjects that we look at, aren't probably the most interesting. So we try and look at ways of making it a bit more interesting for people when they're doing it. For example, health and safety. It's not the most exciting subject for some people, and a lot of people who do the course just do it because it's a means to an end. But we would quite like to make it a little bit more fun and enjoyable, so people come out of the course and they've really enjoyed it. So I spend quite a lot of time thinking about ways to make a course interesting, whether it's through maybe playing a game or a bit more hands-on, get people up out of their seats and take part in an activity rather than just sitting listening to me droning on at them for a couple of hours. I think as well that I use creativity quite a lot in my old job as well. You're always trying to think out the box. When I worked for Breedon, I was pricing really large tenders. So you had to think about things really, really carefully to think about how you were going to beat the competition. So you'd have to come up with some pretty weird and wonderful ideas. So it's good to remember that no idea is a stupid idea sometimes. I like brainstorming a lot of the times because that's, I think, when some really great ideas come out. Self-management, I think, for me, it was always about being quite disciplined. I'd make sure I was in at work in the morning at the same time. I would work, my full day. I would have my to-do list. I would, make sure that I did all my tasks and I'd try and do them to the best of my ability. I think sometimes that's quite hard for people to do that. But I think it's very, very important. It's very important for me. I needed to know what I was doing every day, and if that meant making my own to-do lists, then I would do that. Teamwork, obviously, in the training folk, it's myself and Laura. So we do work as a team. We work very, very closely together to come up with ideas and carry out our business. Again, in my old job, teamwork was really super important, especially if we were pricing a really big tender, because I would need to go and speak to different people within different departments of the company for information. So I'd need to speak to the guys in the lab about material mixes. I would need to go and speak to the guys in the quarry about what they could produce, how much they could produce. I would need to speak to the contracting team, how much stuff could they do in a day, all that kind of thing. So a big teamwork exercise. Communications, a massive, massive thing. I don't think you can really do any sort of job without some sort of communication. For me, in the training folk, obviously communications are a really big thing. I'm communicating information to people. I am training people, so I need to be able to communicate that information properly, whether that's face to face or whether that's by video call or just phone call. But I need to be able to do that in a way that's clear and understandable. Other things that we were asked to speak about here, employability. For me, I think employability wasn't so much about your sort of academic achievements. It's more about the type of person you are. When I was in Breedon, I often got involved in interviewing people to come and work for us. And that could have been guys who were going to be in the tarring squad, so laying tar on the roads, or it could have been people that were actually coming to work with me, as a trainee estimator or a trainee surveyor. And to me, a lot of the time, it's motivation, enthusiasm was more important to me. All the other stuff can be taught, but motivation and enthusiasm is a little harder. I like people with a bit of get up and go. And I think if you show that, it goes a long way. Don't be afraid of putting things down in your CV that show that you're willing, able, enthusiastic about something. I think we've covered thinking. I think that goes hand in hand with creativity. I think sometimes you do have to take a step back and have a proper think about what you're doing, and I find that that's when ideas can kind of pop into your head when you're doing a bit of reflection. Leadership skills. Obviously at your sort of stage in life, you won't have probably had a lot of experience of leadership. You've maybe done a little bit of work at school, Some of you are maybe involved in, football clubs or sports clubs or whatever, and there is an element of leadership in that. But from a work perspective, leadership it's not necessarily about bossing people about. It's about getting your people to work for you. Um, uh, there's many leadership styles out there, and believe me, I've been under most of them. Um, I think if you're nice to people and you treat them with a bit of respect, um, then you get a lot more out of them. I think you treat people the way that you would like to be treated yourself. So if you do get an opportunity to be a leader, make it count. Um, Use it wisely. Don't go on a mad power trip. Because people just won't work to that. So that's pretty much it from me. I think. Um, so all I would say to you is don't panic if exam results weren't exactly what you were looking for. Um, Academic qualifications are not the be all and the end all. Um, they're important, of course they are, but some of the softer skills are just as important. So, make sure you work on those as well. Take the opportunities to go and do extra curricular activities, build up your confidence, build up your communication skills, your teamwork skills. Um, that goes a long way. So, all the best, everybody, and good luck with whatever you want to do. Bye.